Chad, when I go to introduce you, what all you want me to say about you? What's your normal intro line?
Former Force Recon Marine and founder of Mighty Oaks.
Mm-hmm. Author too now?
Yeah. I've written like 8 books now, but that's I think 3 bestsellers. It's a best-selling author, and it's cool. Just yesterday, this one got a big award. Which you get the bestseller books, that means you just market it really well. It didn't mean the book was any good.
Yeah.
But so after it's out for like a year, and then you get an award for the quality of the book. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We had the what was it? Pens. It was a pretty big one. It was a nonfiction. It was their nonfiction book of the year. One nonfiction book of the year. A nonfiction war book of the year.
Awesome.
And I don't know if I think this is being made in a movie. Yeah.
I think we talked about that a while ago.
Yeah.
Through Amazon too, or
no, I mean it's the Terminalist team.
Terminalist team. That's what it was.
But they're going big, motion picture like theaters.
Awesome.
So it's got a like $38 million budget, so it'll be pretty.
When's that supposed to come out?
The script's done, so they're about to hire a director, and they'll roll pretty quick. I think sometime mid-2025.
Nice.
Yeah. They didn't cast it yet, but they have some pretty good
ideas who they want.
Yeah, and with the budget and who they're gonna probably have as a director, I think they'll get who they want. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So pretty excited about that.
I'm pretty excited. It's obviously nervous because it's not. I don't believe it's my story. It's like the story of all these amazing people who came together to do a good thing. And it's also, I believe, it's God's story because it was a miracle. So I'm nervous it gets done right. But so far, Darren Moorman, Jim Klock, Max Adams, who's a scriptwriter from Terminalist, like they've done a phenomenal job of honoring the story, doing it right. So yeah.
That's good. That's important that they honor it and do it, how you originally wanted to be and not.
Yeah.
I heard the good things with the Terminalist and some other things. Angel Studios. Have you ever?
Yeah, they just did that the Robertsons movie, and they did I forget what else they did.
We've got one. Got some glasses and stuff and doing with
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. Yeah. Well, Sound of Freedom was a big one, but there's another one, kind of a apocalyptic times. It has to do with like a nuke attack, and then living off grid and some family out of LA going to live with their uncle.
Really?
It's gonna be coming out next year or this year.
I love apocalyptic movies.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, like in potential apocalyptic times right now.
Yeah,
and I'm preparing.
Yeah,
every way I can.
Are you a preparer somewhat?
I'm not like I don't have a bunker in my backyard or anything like that. But food, water filtration, seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of ammo.
Gotta have ammo.
I have lots of Smith & Wessons because of Smith & Wesson. And then, I'm not saying this as a plug, it's just for real. Like Midas Gold Group is a Marine veteran, and he sponsors our podcast and my Stay Dangerous podcast. And so I'm getting gold and silver from him because he's from the perspective of like having gold and silver coins on hand.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. Everybody's like into Bitcoin, all kind of stuff. When the grid goes down, you want to have gold and silver, and again, it's like small denominations. So I'm kind of prepping in that way. I know, where I live, all the water sources where I live, and all my kids have like bought the old Randall McMillan maps. Yeah. And my daughter lives in another state far away, so I showed her. She thought I was a freak for doing it, but I'm like drawing routes around cities, how to get here. And she's like, that's. I'm like, don't believe me. Just keep this. Keep it in your car.
It's something I've got 4 kids myself, and it's something I've tried to teach them, and it's something we don't realize that we've gotten so used to picking up our phones, directions, where we're going. A lot of people don't know how to read a map, and that's so important because, it's at any point, the more we rely on this grid, through telecommunications and power, that goes down. I don't know what percentage of the country, but I'm going to say it's a high percentage wouldn't know what to do. Wouldn't know how to get water, wouldn't know how to get anywhere, have any type of survival skills.
Most people don't even have a sense of orientation, right? We're in this building right now. We walk like a million ways to get here. I've been navigating my whole life, and I couldn't tell you, north, south, east, or west from here. So, I'd have to get outside and orientate myself. But most people have no idea, even outside, like where it's at. And, it's maps are so simple, like, and it's nothing to buy. Like that said, that Randall McMillan or whatever, they have those. You used to always
have one in the car.
We grew up, like, probably say, we're close to the same age. We have one in the car. Like, man, spend $20 for everyone in your family and buy one of those and just have it. Because if the grid goes down, you don't have a GPS anymore. Your phone's like, you have to know how to get, like, if you live somewhere you need to get to, your family member, like, 5 hours away, and you don't have a map like that, you're in trouble. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, unless you're like some kind of, backwoods, navigator, like you're in trouble. And most people aren't.
Yeah, it's something I try with my kids, and when I was younger, it was done. But so when we got deer hunting, I lived out in Yuma, Arizona, so out in the desert. So a little bit easier to navigate in desert.
Sure.
Landmarks are easy, but I notice even my kids around town, I'm like, put your phone down. Even if you're a passenger, I want you to know where you're at, where we're going, and understand where you're at. But what I would do in the desert as we're out hunting and stuff and driving around, getting to different spots where we're going to go hike and in, because I'd constantly ask them, all right, which way's camp? Point to camp. Yeah. Keeping them aware of where they're going, what turns we're making. Yeah. Because the woods you get lost easy in, but even out in the desert, it's an arid environment, and if you don't recognize your landmarks and where to get back to, it's important. And I think,
you can be in trouble quick.
Oh, like, real quick.
I was stationed at Twin Palms, and every year you lose a couple of Marines there that, from the heat and elements, even in wintertime too.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with my kids, like out hunting, make sure they know where we were at all times, spot check them.
Yeah.
And then at night, like always, like making sure they can find constellations, find north.
Yeah.
Because the sky rotates around the North Star. So it's like you look at the Lace W or the Big Dipper, as it rotates around, and making sure that my kids, always knew how to do that.
Yeah, I think, I'm seeing a lot more people getting into it again a little bit, but I still think there's, a huge lack of that here in the United States, or
for sure,
worldwide, but,
Very easy to become, super complacent. It's a comfortable environment. It's awesome that we live here.
Yeah.
But the environment of the comforts of America could go, like, people don't realize it could go, like, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, while we're sitting here, boom, everything could go out and it's not coming back. And the longer it's out, the worse it gets.
Yeah. And, myself personally, I feel, it makes me a little, I think we're getting closer to where that's a reality. There was a lot of years, I think, that the world was, feared America. And I feel like, nowadays, with everything that's going on, it's, getting less and less, looked at as this powerful country, just with the type.
They flew a Chinese spy balloon across the country
a
couple of times. At any point, they could flip a switch and shut down, a large majority, or if not the entire United States electrical grid.
Yeah.
And, and that's something that they were talking about national security, like just the safety of every American. Like, that's nothing we could have done anything about because we let that happen, come over, and we let satellites fly over us now, and we're vulnerable. And at any point of our people that hate America, and a lot of people do, culturally, economically, want to flip that switch, fly a balloon over and flip that switch. Like, you better have a map and a plan and food, and because all those, you're not gonna be just looking for toilet paper.
Yeah, for sure. So. You gotta possess those skill sets to survive, and
some Gators glasses.
Yeah, you gotta have Gators. You gotta see. You can't get where you're going if you can't see, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's nice of Chad to put the plug in, and I don't even have to do it. It works out good that way.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your book.
Saving Aziz is Aziz was so I was a Force Recon Marine. I went over the. I was very privileged to go over JSOC. Those that don't know, JSOC is Joint Special Operations Command, where all of the America's top Naval Special Warfare Development Group, SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, some other the 7 kind of premier units at JSOC, and so I got to go to one of them and represent the Marine Corps there. I did 8 deployments there as AFO, like a Advanced Force Operator, working in a singleton capacity, kind of like. Best way to describe it is like being undercover to put our soldiers on target in non-permissive areas. And so when you do that job, you get teamed up with a local national, kind of as your interpreter / teammate. Mm-hmm. And so I did 8 deployments consecutively, all with Aziz. And so he became not just my interpreter and teammate, but my friend, and saved my life multiple times. And, when we're not, probably saved my life every day, like not, don't eat that, don't walk there, don't talk to that person. If you talk right now, they're going to kill us. We were like in the mountains of Afghanistan or across the border in Pakistan. And we were not out operating, which we did like over 100 missions together, put soldiers on targets. Like I didn't go back to base and he went home. I went to his house. His wife Hatra cooked our first warm meal, and I held Mashoud and Mashuda, his oldest son and daughter, when they were born, like family to me. And so in 2021, when the Afghan withdrawal happened, and President Biden made the decision to pull our troops out. A lot of things that no need to get here to in here. A lot of things I was against that decision for a lot.
Yeah.
But the one thing I had control over was my friend Aziz. I wasn't going to leave him and his wife and 6 kids there. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I'm like, I'm going to go get him. And so I started calling some friends from the special operations community to put a team together and a plan together to go get Aziz, his wife and 6 kids. In fact, it was Scott Swerson and I were just talking. He just met with Tim Kennedy and Tim Kennedy, and he was one of the first people I called and talk about that in the book. And and we put this team together, and as we were planning to go get Aziz's wife and 6 kids, I think God just orchestrated a burden on our heart over these 3,000 orphan kids that were left there. And one of our team members, we had an incredible group of guys, Green Berets and Recon Marines and some SEALs. We had a few guys from CIA Ground Branch, and one of the guys picked up his phone and was like, "Hey, there's 3,000 orphans that just got left. Awesome, we're gonna get Aziz's wife and kids, but we should help these people too." We looked around the room, like we had a dozen of guys with decades of experience in combat and mature guys, and the guys not going out there look to get in a fight with the Taliban or anything like that. Those criteria for me. Just guys that would go, we're just going to help people. We're not going to get in a fight. We're not going, this is not a, bloodlust over our disagreement with the withdrawal. And so let's go get these girls. And then I think, again, our hearts were just burdened to go help as many people as we could, like women, children, Americans,
there was
Christians.
Quite a few people left over there in that withdrawal.
Thousands of Americans still there.
Yeah.
Again, I could get into, but we left thousands of Americans there. We closed the best option to get them out. We abandoned our allies who we had contractual agreements with and a moral obligation to. And so I couldn't change the government doing the right thing, but I was able to help get people together that wanted to do the right thing. And so we did. We leaned forward, and that's all, people that heard me talk about this always hear me say, I got a lot of credit for this. We got awards and all kind of stuff, and the book did good, but I'm not smart enough to pull this off. I don't think anyone is. It was a very complex series of events that had to happen to make it successful just to get Aziz, much less more people. And I believe that because we were obedient to that burden in our hearts, God orchestrated this modern day miracle that allowed us to not only get Aziz, his wife and 6 kids, but 17,000 other people. And we got on HKIA. We had the Joint Chiefs permission, which is a miracle.
Yeah.
And then we had to bring people without visas to another country, which is, how do you get somebody to do that? We knew the royal family of the UAE. They gave us permission, which is crazy. They gave us a C-17 plane with pilots and the humanitarian center. And then in 3 days, by the way, and then Glenn Beck calls me, who wrote the foreword to this book, and Glenn's got on the radio because he just wanted to do something. And he got on the microphone and said, people should help. And he thought he'd raise a few $1,000s. He called me. He's like, it's been 3 days and I raised $21 million. I don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, I know what to do with it. We're going to start chartering planes. And ultimately, this effort at the airport at HKIA over 10 days until Abbey blew up and we lost 13 of our service members. We had got 12,000 people out at that point. We chose to stay because we chose to stay for several reasons. One, they had the news media in the White House was saying that there's 100 Americans left. And I'm on the news saying there's thousands of Americans still here. And people were saying I was crazy and embellishing. We know now from Senate hearings there was.
Yeah.
But where I come from, in my career being in special operations, it doesn't matter if there's 1,000 or 100. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. You don't leave one American behind ever, anywhere. Yeah. I mean, where I come from, if there's Americans somewhere, we'll scorch the earth to go get them. We'll sacrifice guys to go get that American because that's what we do. We don't leave our people behind. And so for the White House to be willing to leave, even if they were right on their numbers, which we know, they said there was 16,000 and they said we got 6,000 people out. Now we have 100 left. I'm not that great at math, but so, it's not 100.
Yeah.
And so,
sure.
So we just chose to stay and we worked to the coalition effort. A lot of other organizations, by the way, in this coalition effort. We ended up getting 5,000 more out in Mazar Sharif. And then we had heard all the women and children were being moved to the Panjshir Valley to get the women and children out across into Tajikistan, cross the Panjshir River, so the commandos could resist and fight.
Yeah.
And we knew that was the last place that we could really work and help because that area is 25,000-foot mountain peaks. Even if you made it to the river, if you went down the wrong valley, you're going to have a 1,000-foot cliff.
Wow.
The elements are just crazy. And in addition to that, the Taliban's there. This wasn't in the news, but the Chinese military was there. Mm-hmm. Chinese special operations were there protecting that border. The Russian military was there, and up to 50 vehicle mech convoys. We got the first eyes on there. The Tajikistan border. So they had to know where to cross. And now you have to cross the Panjshir River, which is whitewater rapids, ice melt water. Afghan women can't swim because they don't have bikinis and go out to the beach and the pool, right? They can't swim. Usually they're either pregnant or have a baby with them. So like it's impossible for them to pass. So we're like, myself and Dennis Price, this other Force Recon Marine sniper, went into Tajikistan. Went like 12 hours through the mountains. We lots to get permissions to go there.
Yeah.
And we spent 10 days on that border. We did about 90 miles of border reconnaissance, and we ended up over that 10 days. Every night we swam across the Panjshir River in Afghanistan and built routes out with a plan and equipment to get them across. And we were providing that to some information to some of our government agencies that wanted it but couldn't go out and collect it. Some other NGOs and to the commandos themselves to get their women and children out. And that's kind of how it ended for us. And
that's
it was
amazing.
just an amazing effort to see, like, so many incredible people, like, you know, and people were frustrated, especially the veteran community watching the news, and they were frustrated at our government. But, you know, when the governments of the world, like, did not do the right thing, especially our own, good people came together from different belief systems and did the right thing for other humans who were in need. The 9-year-old girls that were being drug off and raped.
Yeah,
it was cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's good to know that there's still some good in the world, and you can put together a team like that and get people from everywhere. Did you guys get any help from any other countries? UAE, you said
UAE. That was one of the most encouraging things to me, because anybody that's been paying attention to the last like decade, like there's so much division in our country, especially in the world. Like you don't fall in the middle. You're either like right-wing conspiracist or you're left-wing nutbag. Like that's how people categorize you. And so I have these, a lot of people follow me on social media. Yeah. Not all because they like me. Some that like, you can read some of the comments because they hate me. And I was getting messages from people saying, I don't like you. I think you're an idiot, but what you're doing is awesome. Where can I donate? Yeah. It was really cool to see that. Like,
that's good to see that.
And then there was an organization in Israel, this Jewish organization, and they want to pay for 2 flights, which is $1.5 million. One flight was $800,000, one flight was $700,000, and so they went to make the donation. The guy calls me back and he says, "Hey, we can't make the donation." I was moving fast. I'm like, "Did I give the wrong routing number?" And he's like, "No, you're a Christian organization. We're a Jewish organization. It's Jewish money. We can't give it to a Christian organization." And I was like, "You do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right?" Yeah. And the guy laughed and made the donation. So you had a Jewish organization giving money to a Christian organization to rescue Muslims.
Yeah.
Jewish from Israel rescuing Muslims from Afghanistan, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
These people would probably want to, a lot of these Afghans, maybe not the ones we're rescuing, but you can't even go into Israel with an Afghan stamp on your passport. Like they were doing the right thing. It was so cool to see just human beings coming together for other human beings. Like when you got politics aside, when you see little 9-year-old girls getting drug off and raped, when you see guys that fought aside us for 20 years. Not just for America, not just for a paycheck, but for freedom, for their daughters to be able to be journalists and doctors and be educated and be able to leave their house. Like guys like that were fighting for freedom along us, like for us to just go help them. It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember seeing any of that kind of stuff on the news. It doesn't seem to make it there very often anymore.
That's why I wanted to write the book. I wanted to tell this real story in the book. And like every time I go in the news, they want to, I was one this morning. All the one talk about is the divisive politics, but it's important. That's what the book, and as they're doing the movie, some of the writers and producers of Terminalist are doing a movie for Saving Aziz. I'm like, this is like one, it's a modern day miracle, but two, it's a story. It's not just a story of how messed up Joe Biden's decision was, and who China benefited, and Iran benefited. That's reality, right? We talk about those things, but you got to talk about what the good part is that human beings will, when it comes down to it, when it comes to crunch time, human beings generally do the right thing for other human beings.
Yeah, and I think I've traveled around the country and the world some, and ran into a lot of people, and overall, I don't think there's a major problem. I think media, will definitely pick it. Oh, yeah. There's still a lot of good in this world. Constantly running into people that doing for other people, and it's. I think that's why things like this podcast, and stuff are becoming more important, and people are going there to get their information because it's raw, uncut,
it's not
unfiltered.
It's not
no
agenda.
Yeah. There's nothing. They were just, some people sitting down talking about their beliefs or whatever's going on, and there's, there's not a lot of filtering to it like you get in the media.
I was already encouraged when I seen that, and then I ended up going to Ukraine. I've done 10 trips to Ukraine now, and one of the things I saw when I first went to Ukraine was all these people coming across the border, mainly women and children, because the men were staying back and fighting. They're coming across. the line 7 hours to get across. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's freezing, like wet, cold. They're coming across. Their shoes are wet. Their pants are wet. They're shivering. They're dragging a suitcase and their kids. It was terrible. When they got to that border, there was no governments there. No governments at all. I was there. Like I was there 4 days after the invasion. Went into Ukraine 4 days after the invasion. There was no governments there. What they were there across the border were NGOs, non-government organizations, churches, people, random people that came from all over the world that were giving them jackets. There's pala jackets. There was these Indians from India there with bowls of hot cauliflower curry.
Wow.
There were people there with cell phones because they're coming across. They don't have a cell phone. They don't have a chip for Poland.
Yeah.
And so now they communicate. There were people that drove there with empty cars, so they had empty seats to drive them back to a refugee center in Krakow, Poland. There was this German dude that drug a grand piano behind his car, went to the border. It was the craziest thing. I got a video of it. Drove it to the border. He's sitting on the border, and it's cold. He's got a metal can under his butt with candles in it to keep his butt warm, and he's sleeping in his car, and he's playing Imagine All the People.
Yeah.
And on the piano, and he stayed there as long as he was awake. He was playing that piano, and I'm like, and when I asked him, like, what the heck are you doing? Snowing, cold. He's like, these people are coming. Their houses are being blown up. There's bombs and gunshots. When they come here, I want them to hear something beautiful so they know they're okay. Like
that's awesome.
That's what. That was
even
cool.
Something that simple. You don't realize when you're in something like that can bring a little bit of peace to you, and know that there's still tomorrow and something better possibly ahead.
Yeah,
so, for sure.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you were over in Ukraine?
It's been like 4 or 5 months for me. We have a team leaving. Mighty Oaks Foundation has. So we have 2 organizations that I work with. One's a humanitarian rescue operation. That I'm the chairman of the board for. I don't really say the name of it because we don't really need to publicize it. But we do humanitarian rescue stuff. Like while we were in Ukraine, we've rescued a lot of people. Recovered a lot of U.S. service members that went there to fight, and they were killed or injured and needed to be extracted. And the U.S. government wasn't allowed to go in, military or even our Central Intelligence Agency. So we recovered those bodies. One being Dan Swift, a U.S. Navy SEAL that was killed there. And then we rescued Benjamin Hall, the Fox News reporter, and recovered the bodies of the rest of the cameramen. So those are the kind of things we're doing with that organization. Mighty Oaks Foundation goes there to help bring the same programs we have here in the States for our U.S. service members and first responders. So resiliency, spiritual resiliency, recovery. And so there's this huge growth of military there that are mostly like civilian soldiers that are, going to fight for their freedoms, their farms, their homes, their wives and kids. And so there's a need for a chaplaincy because the mental toll it's taken. And so there's no chaplaincy. So the pastors of Ukraine are like, I want to be a military chaplain, but I don't understand that world. So Mighty Oaks built a program to go there, and we go, and this last trip we certified 35 pastors to be chaplains.
You were telling me at dinner there, and it's interesting.
And so that's this trip now. They're going to do that.
And then your son's doing some of that stuff too?
My son's on the team that goes, he leads the team out there that goes, most of the guys that go there are like former soft guys. Yeah. And that have but really, what's really cool is that a lot of, I'd say 90% of our team are alumni of Mighty Oaks. So they came to Mighty Oaks struggling, maybe had some brokenness, felt like a lack of sense of purpose. They go through our program, get their life on track, go through our leadership program, start paying it forward to others, and then we're picking guys like that to be in our international team and going out. So you talk about sense of purpose again. This guy, Reed Hasty, was like, I remember 8 years ago, he couldn't fly from Oklahoma to California because his anxiety was so bad he couldn't fly. He would end up in the VA psych ward like once a week. He talks about how humiliating it was not being able to be trusted with the shoelaces. Yeah. And now he's like, flew with me to Krakow, Poland, got in a car, drove 18 hours across Ukraine, went 2 hours past the Russian line. Like that first night there, we got like IDF, like the buildings, windows are blowing out in the buildings. He was like totally calm. The next day, went out, we spoke to some Ukrainian troops, and I'm like sitting there watching him. Like, this guy couldn't fly from Oklahoma to California, but he's 2 hours past the Russian line, giving his testimony to these Ukrainian troops, encouraging them to be resilient and have their faith and be spiritually resilient. And we're handing out resources there and helping them with IFACs, like individual first aid kits and medical equipment. Yeah, it was awesome. By the way, I'll give another plug to GATORZ. On the Afghanistan mission and in Ukraine, before I had any professional relationship with you guys, and now I'm one of you guys' ambassadors. Before anything, though, I was wearing GATORZ, And not only was I wearing gaiters, but all of our team in Ukraine were wearing the transition lens ballistic gaiters because I wanted the best thing for the guy's eyes. You drive, even if it's not an attack, you're driving down the road, you get a bomb goes off or something like that, or you know, indirect fire, which happens all the time there. You just drive down the road, you see it everywhere. I mean, you get glass in your eyes there or shrapnel in your eyes. You're not going to the hospital unless you got an arm hanging off. Like, so you got a day or 2 days to get back to Poland to get care. So 24/7 have your eyes protected. Gaiters was
that's great. You know,
choice, man.
I think at the factory, that's one thing I always tell people is, they're not making just sunglasses. These aren't just typical sunglasses. You don't know where these are going to end up. They could be on somebody across the world, someplace all alone, or in a small team, or it could just be some guy out in the woods. So, one of the things we do pride ourselves is every single pair has to function, and that's so we make it in America. Everything's done here. We want that craftsmanship and pride in what we do because it goes on a lot of different people that do a lot of different things and a lot of good for the world and the country. So I want to make sure they're protected, can still see where they're going and what their mission is.
I mean, the reason gaiters, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, one, I've always used it for shooting, for skydiving, for deploying. But one of the things I love about them is, obviously the ballistic lenses, but the metal frame is super important to me because if you get a blast in the face and you have really good ballistic lenses, but you have a plastic frame,
it'll come out of the hinges there.
Yeah, they come out the hinges, or they don't work. So it got you by one. Your eyes might have been protected for one blast, but not the second. And if you're in a gunfight or a battle, like, I don't want my eyes protected just for that first blast. I want it protected the whole way through that situation. And so just knowing the durability of the frames was super important to me. And
I mean, I talk about that even with everybody when they talk about their EDC kit. Everybody's, what's your carry pistol, your knife, your flashlight, stuff like that. And how important it is to have good eye pro, because if you are even in a inside of a city or something happens, there's going to be a lot of stuff flying. And if it is gunfire, there's stuff flying constantly, and you've got to be able to see. So it's important to look at your eye pro, and that's where gaiters really is, and that's where you have different styles. That it still look good, but are going to provide that protection. It really is an important part of your everyday carry your loadout kit. So
when you start shooting and stuff starts blowing up, that stuff that flies. I 8 deployments, I never got shot. I've been blown up a couple times, but the one hole I have in my body is in my butt. A wall got blown and a piece of Afghan rock or something flew into my butt, so I got 2 buttholes.
I bet that makes some interesting jokes.
Yeah. So, but man, I remember thinking that was my face.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there was some shrapnel flying. It was just a mud wall.
Yeah.
And a rock flew out of it, and I mean,
enough velocity.
A hole in my butt. Yeah. And sure. Pretty good scar. And good bedtime stories.
So
scared the kids. Showed them a second butthole. I'll get in trouble for saying that, showing the kids second butthole right now, but other people could get on.
Yeah, for sure. So with Mighty Oaks, what can our listeners and people, how can they do to get involved and help out with that? Because I think that's important, and especially helping out veterans and everything. Yeah, I mean, Mighty Oaks is it's an amazing organization. I say that as someone that founded it, but I just truly believe that we have the most amazing staff, and we get to do a lot of work. And so over the last 12 years, we do 4 things at Mighty Oaks. I'll summarize them real quick. We do a resiliency program where we go speak to active duty troops based all around the world. I've spoken to about 500,000 troops by myself, like based around the world. I've written a ton of books, and we have a three series on resiliency, on spiritual resiliency, on PTSD, like what's true about PTSD from more a spiritual perspective, creation perspective, and then a suicide book. And those 3 books are about 45-minute reads. We made them intentionally easy for my fellow Marines. And they fit in your cargo pocket. We've given away about 400,000 copies of those books to the troops. So that's on the resiliency front. On the recovery front, we have a program called a legacy program. Active duty service members from all 4 branches, veterans, first responders, and spouses come. We do 50 camps a year. They're about a week long. Over the last 12 years, we've done about 5,500 graduates, but now we're doing about 1,000 per year because we've really amplified. And they have 5 ranches around the country in California, Ohio, Virginia, and Texas. And we do all of that for free. We even fly them out. So we're talking about $8 million in programming a year that we do for free because of a grateful nation of people that support it. Yeah. And because of the successes we had with non-clinical, faith-based, peer-to-peer mentorship programs, and I'm not against clinical care, but they should be an option to do both, right? Peer-based has always been proven to be the best. Faith-based, peer-based is always
the statistics of the best.
Yeah.
In 2009, executive order was signed taking that away from our troops. And you could see on the graph chart, the suicide rate was 16 a day, and it was like, after that came away. And so I really advocated early on when candidate Trump was running. I had a chance to meet him and ask him some question in town hall. Could have asked him any question.
Yeah.
And the question I picked was, if you become president of the United States, will you overturn this and give our troops back the option to have faith-based care? He said yes. And I ended up going on to becoming the chairman of the faith-based coalition in the White House. And I called him on it, and he did it. In 2018, we got that executive order signed.
Awesome.
And so that created an opportunity. I've testified before Congress probably a dozen times, U.S. Senate, and I advised the White House. I advised the VA up to the deputy director of the VA on faith-based care for veterans. And so we have an advocacy side of Mighty Oaks as well. That way, and even people don't agree with my faith, because I'm a Christian, pretty open about it. But even if people listening don't agree, I think we'd all agree that if anybody deserves a right to choose what kind of care they get, it should be our service members.
100%.
They're the ones that fight for that right. They should have the right to choose between clinical care, faith-based care, or a combination of, right? And so, we really believe in that. So that's our advocacy side. And our fourth one is the international one. Mm-hmm. We go to places like Peru and Ukraine and very nonpartisan, by the way. Like, I've gotten a lot of heat. Like, why are you in Ukraine? Zelensky's corrupt, and we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars. And personally, I agree with that. I think Zelensky's corrupt. I think hundreds of billions of dollars going there should not go from U.S. taxpayers' money. That's my personal opinion.
I agree.
But I'm not there for Zelensky. I'm not there for Biden. I'm there for people that need help. And if you let your politics get in the way of your compassion for people, you should probably change your politics, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so these women and children in Ukraine, they didn't ask for this. They don't want this. They care about their homes, their farms, their way of life. And if I have the ability, and God opens doors for the ability to go help those people, I will. And so that's what Mighty Oaks feels like. We've had the ability to help train their chaplaincy. And as long as that need's there, we're going to do that. We use training them in medical as an access point, right? They might not say, hey, we don't want you to come here and share Jesus with us, but we need medical equipment. So we go there, we bring IFAC kits, we bring 18 Delta, like combat medic instructors to teach them. And we use that as an opportunity for that, spiritual resiliency program and training of chaplains. We'll go all over though, like Peru. Our team was just in Peru this year. And so that's the 4 things to do at Mighty Oaks. If you want to get involved, mightyoaksprograms.org. You could donate there. If any veteran or first responder or spouse of needs that kind of care, again, everything's free. You go there and apply. And I tell you, one of the things, as we work together for the ambassador things, one of my criteria to work with any company, as much as I love the glasses, is that, hey, I want people that want to be part of helping our first responders and our service members. And, you guys have been part of it. In fact, I think we're one of 4 organizations that you guys partner with.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We appreciate
it's important to give back to us. For me personally, it's I'm proud to be an American. I grew up in a military town, Yuma, Arizona. There, and I think we talked about you went to Free Fall School right there. Yeah. So I actually worked out there at YPG for quite a while. But it's I think there still is a lot of Americans. The media doesn't show up, but it is important. Our veterans, give a lot. And I think there's a lot of people that don't understand, like PTSD and stuff like that. And, what people have to go through, after some of the stuff they've been through and how hard it is to deal with it. I've always, had a sympathy for that or a little bit of understanding. And I never really knew, what it felt like. And then, excuse me, my voice would all of a sudden change. I'll have to edit that one out.
It sounds good. It sounds like you're crying.
Yeah. No.
You got emotional on us.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But
give him a tissue, guys.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So, but I have my own experience. Not obviously not on a battlefield, but lost my stepdaughter, and so that dealing with that.
Cry,
yeah. So it was a bad deal to get into some other time, but it was sudden, side of the road. 35 minutes for paramedics to get there. And dealing with that the year after that, and still today. That was in 2020. So, it's tough, and that really brought home for me. Like, that's that one event, and it was, horrible, and it took a lot to get over, and there's so many different triggers, and it's stuff you never think about, and then, I think makes me think about the veterans that have been places, done things, and seen this time and time again. And, as far as a visual or losing multiple, brothers in arms, there, and having to come back home and deal with that it's it's pretty important. So it's I think if some people haven't experienced it, they may never do it, but it just from my little experience, it's given me a completely different look at it and how important it is. It's always been important to me, but seeing what that struggle is for somebody, it's a lot to deal with.
It is, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think one thing I'll say from that is veterans and the veteran community and first responders do not have a monopoly on trauma. Yeah, we all deal with hard things in life, and there's a million ways in this world you get hurt, and I believe there's one way to get well, and that's to really have a strong spiritual foundation and align your life with the life you're created to live. That's what I believe, and that's what I've seen through the 12 years. But like you, for me, my passion behind this comes from my own experience. I don't think I would personally, and I say this just being honestly, it might sound ugly, but I don't think about experiencing myself. I probably wasn't the type of person that would have compassion for people. Yeah. Because prior to me falling hard on my face, I didn't have a lot of compassion or empathy for people that were like dealing with mental health. Yeah. Or I was like, it's kind of weakness. But then,
as men, that's kind of it's kind of a I don't want to say stereotype, but that's just pretty inbred with men. I mean, men is supposed to be the protector. Your family, whatever it is. So you got to be tough. You can't be weak.
Strong and social weakness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 8 deployments. I buried 15 friends over those 8 deployments. Towards the end, we had a compromise on operation. Working like AFO, meaning so like we don't use the word undercover in the military, but that's the best way to describe it. We had a Afghan teammate who was CIA trained, embedded with us, flipped to the Taliban, compromised us, put Aziz at risk. A VBIB was driven in a vehicle-borne IED, like a bomb was driven in our house. Yeah. Killed her. Luckily, none of us were home. We had a bunch of our teammates captured and killed. I was abducted by a foreign intelligence agency. It was a terrible time, and I came home from that. I operated even more after that. Compromised, by the way, but the wheels really came off for me, and I started dealing with anxiety, like massive panic attacks. Yeah. Came home, diagnosed with PTSD. Panic attacks are terrible. I was completely embarrassed and ashamed because of that mentality I had.
It is, yeah.
And I spent 3 years in a downward spiral, and it led to me almost losing my family and a suicide attempt in 2010. Yeah. And it was my wife and some amazing people that came around me and helped me to pull it back together. And a lot of things took place in that, but probably nothing was more profound than the restoration of my faith and really being discipled into biblical living and learning that all these bad things happened to me, but the reason I ended up in a closet with a pistol in my hand, wanted to take my life, was not because of those things. It was the way I responded to those things. And this kind of biblical living gave me a motto to say, okay, I still deal with anxiety, depression, but how do I respond to it? What's the right choices? Yeah. And it helped me to get back on track. And I found restoration again. I found hope. I found purpose. And that purpose really manifested for me in like this deep desire to pay it forward, because I realized I'm not the only one. Other people are struggling. But this guy, this mentor that stepped in my life, this guy, Steve Toth, he just gave me the cure. Like for cancer, like I have to share that. And so that's how Mighty Oaks actually started. And my empathy and compassion for that is just so strong, because I almost lost everything. Yeah. My family, my life, like my future, everything I get to do now, because I was simply making bad choices in response to that. And so I want to pay that forward.
That's a great story too. You think about it, and Steve, you said
Steve Toth, yeah.
So working with you and and helping you, and then all the people you've helped since then. So it's that one little thing. And just you never know what anybody's dealing with, or what you helping that one person can that domino effect, and how many people that can help. And it's important, and it's something that I try to when I'm talking to anybody, or somebody looks like, you don't know what the hell's happened to them. You don't know their backstory. You don't know what anything is, and you try and give them the benefit of the doubt. And everybody has a bad day, and they just may need a little bit of help that one day, and it could be enough just to push them over the edge and start heading uphill again. So
or you don't respond to them right away. You maybe push them over the edge the other way.
Yeah.
It's really being exposed to my experience and the experience of helping, working with so many others at Mighty Oaks over the years. Yeah. It's really given me a different perspective, compassion, impatience. Like I used to be a super impatient guy. I was like very introverted, very impatient. Everyone's an idiot. And it's really like changed my perspective in life. I've become like a very composed, it takes a lot to rattle me now. Like because of just those experiences. And I just feel like, and I just have this, I didn't like anybody before, man. I didn't like anybody. I didn't like people. Like now I have this like bleeding, like compassionate heart for everybody. And I just, I prefer it. I prefer to live life that way.
It's much more filling, having that compassionate heart. And probably a little bit of age in that too, but the age is as experiences, come in.
Age is wisdom and from experiences. I mean, you see a story like the guy that said that, couldn't come from Oklahoma to Ukraine. Like you see stuff like that, right? This guy who he felt like my life's over. I had no more purpose. I was in the army, trusted with millions of dollars in equipment, and it's responsible for men and people's lives and a mission. And now I'm in a VA ward, can't be trusted with my shoelaces.
Yeah.
Like, there's why would I want to live anymore?
Yeah.
And they find purpose again. This guy didn't just come to Ukraine. Like, he started and he became one of our head instructors, then became our instructor trainer, went back to his town in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, started 13 Mighty Oaks outposts, and 300 men and women meet weekly because he went back to his community and did that. The Tulsa Police Department, because of him, he's had over 130 Tulsa police officers come to Mighty Oaks, which is like a third of the department, or I don't know the exact number. I think it's like a third of, but the chief of police said it changed the culture of the department, changed the community, because that one guy decided to get well and then turn around and help the next guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing to see that, be part of that.
Can't say it enough. Hopefully that's the motivation for people is that it does, you can be, one person can do a lot of stuff and it can trickle down and help a lot of people for sure.
But when you're in a dark moment, man, you think it's always going to be this way.
Yeah.
Like, my life is always going to be this way. There's no hope. There's no future.
Yeah, there's no light at rock bottom unless you got somebody, you do need somebody there. I went through the same thing and having somebody there, pick me up and got me back going again, because it's dark at the bottom and it's hard to see that light, and faith is definitely one of the things that helped me too. And
I had a friend that would say,
important.
I had a friend that would always say this, though, about rock bottom. He said, turns out rock bottom's a pretty good foundation to rebuild off of.
Yeah, it is true. There's a bunch of different sayings like that, too. But it is true, you find out a lot about yourself and down when you get to the bottom, too, and life and what's important. Yeah. Especially nowadays, there's so much, influences on, what people think is important. But that is the one good thing of being rock bottom. It is a solid foundation, and you realize what really matters in life. And at the end of the day, to me, people matter. At the end of the day, when my time's over on this earth, it's not what what material items I left behind or this. It's the relationships. That's what keeps me living. And that's what I want my legacy to be too. Is who do I help along the way? With those people, and that's what lives on for time, and time makes the world a better place for our kids and grandchildren and all that. So
yeah,
for sure,
absolutely.
Awesome. I think we're about done, huh?
Yeah. I go on forever.
I know we could go on forever, huh? Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you pull my string, we'll be here all day.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to. That's what podcasts are so great. It's just being able to sit down and talk and have good conversations. So, anything else you want to cover that we need to cut in here? Or?
No, man. We talked about that book, but it's actually the book on Ukraine. It's kind of me and my son's father-son experience in Ukraine. Is actually up for pre-sale now, and it'll be out in September. So we haven't really talked about it much. We haven't promoted it yet, but it's called Mission Without Borders.
Okay.
And you can go pre-order it. Pre-orders help. Like, you're like, oh, I'm not getting it until September. I'll wait. But if you don't know anything about books, like, pre-orders help so much to get a book out, because the buyers look at pre-orders. Like Barnes & Noble will say, okay, this thing's pre-selling. Okay, we want to. So it really helps authors out a lot. And for me, like, as an author, you're not just helping me out. Every book I do is about a mission to help people. So I appreciate your help with that new book.
So where do people go to pre-order that at?
You go right on Amazon.
Amazon?
Okay. Amazon's usually, you can go to Barnes & Noble anywhere, but Amazon's usually the easiest place. Saving Aziz is there, and Mission Without Borders is a Ukraine book. It's really like about, imagine like father-son going into combat together. Yeah. Like that's sketchy. So it's really about my journey of like releasing the fear as a father to the faith in him as his own man, and to recognize that, hey, God loves my son more than I ever can. He'll protect him better than I ever can, and just releasing him to do what God called him to do, a burden his heart to do. Very difficult thing. Easy thing to say. It's kind of sounds kind of motivating maybe, but very difficult thing to say when you're taking your son 2 hours into Russian occupied territory in Ukraine to do humanitarian work. Yeah, you
were telling me a story the other night at dinner where he was about a couple hours away from you over in Ukraine and was getting hit pretty hard all over. And it kind of amazed me how calm you were telling that story. I feel like I'd be freaking out. My son's over here, and they're getting bombed and stuff going off. But
me and C-Spray were in a Zoom, and he was leading a team in Bakhmut. So we're about 3 hours apart. And we got the Russians closed the because the Zoom was occupied for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians just took it back. So they closed around us. We're getting like indirect fire, small arms fire, and MiGs flying over, dropping.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. And then I called him to tell him, hey, we're moving. And when I called him, I could hear the bombs hitting in the background, and they were getting rocketed at the same time.
Wow.
And so we had, me and my son both at the same time had to moving to safety. And in fact, the book, I start off there, like the prologue.
Yeah.
Starts off like there, like, how do you get there where you and your son are in 3 hours apart getting bombed at the same time? And in Ukraine, it was pretty nuts. And I definitely don't, no pride in putting ourselves in that position.
Yeah.
We should always try not to put ourselves in that position. We're not seeking anything, but it was a situation we found ourselves in.
Amazing. Well, at least it turned out good.
Yeah, we're both here.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely do this again. But everybody go check out Chad Robichaux, Mighty Oaks. What's the website for Mighty Oaks?
MightyOaksPrograms.org. My website's chadrobichaux.com. Mm-hmm. And you get the books on Amazon.
Books on Amazon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And my podcast, Stay Dangerous.
Yeah, Stay Dangerous.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And how often you guys got podcasts coming out?
Usually once a week. We slowed down for the holidays. We kind of start the season. So I think there's a few episodes. Is there currently weekly episodes right now? I know we had some in the queue. I think we're not, but we start back our first guest, and our first guest is going to be, I think, February 2nd in 2 weeks. Terry Crews.
Okay.
The guys. Yep. President Camacho.
Yeah.
Terry Crews. Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
We got some killer guests coming up. I'm gonna be on Sean Ryan here soon too, and he's gonna be on my show.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
we got some great guests.
Definitely. Well, thanks for coming on, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Good deal.
Awesome.